6 months. That's how long I'd ghosted his office, lied through my teeth about my progress in those final sessions, and convinced myself I'd outrun the mess I'd made. But New York had other plans, shrinking the world to this godforsaken corner of Park Slope where fate, or sheer bad luck, had dumped us both. Elias stepped closer, rain dripping from his raven hair, those storm-gray eyes narrowing as recognition dawned, not just of my face, but of every goddamn secret I'd fed him half-truths about. My ex, the abuse I'd downplayed as just rough patches. The way I'd let a man twist me into knots until I couldn't tell love from a chokehold. And now, here he was, not in the safety of his leather armchair, but real and raw, his gaze peeling back the layers I'd rebuilt with booze and bad hookups. "Dr. Hart?" I stammered, voice cracking like thunder, shoving my hands into my jacket pockets to hide the tremor. This is some coincidence." "Elias," he corrected, soft but firm, the way he always did when I hid behind formality. Water beaded on his lashes, and for a split second, I saw it, the flicker of something unprofessional, a hunger that mirrored my own buried ache. "And it's no coincidence. I saw you duck into that bar last week. You've been avoiding more than just therapy, haven't you?" My stomach twisted. He'd been watching? No, that wasn't fair. He was just observant, always had been. That's what made him dangerous. That's what made me want him, even when I knew better. I backed up a step, the brick wall of the brownstone digging into my spine. "Look, I paid my bill. We're square." "I gotta. Run all you want, Brandon," he interrupted, his voice dropping low, intimate, like we were still in session. "But you can't lie to me anymore. Not with that look on your face. Not after what you told me." What I told him. Jesus. The sessions blurred in my mind. Me sprawled on his couch, spilling about Jake like it was just another breakup. Not the 2 years of gaslighting that left me questioning if I even deserved to breathe. I'd minimized it all. The bruises hidden under hoodies. The nights I'd locked myself in the bathroom sobbing while he banged on the door calling me weak. Elias had pushed, gently at first, then with that quiet intensity that made you feel seen, really seen, for the first time. And I'd lied. Told him I was fine, moving on, because admitting the truth meant admitting I was broken. Meant risking the pity in those eyes that sometimes lingered too long on my mouth. I didn't lie. I shot back. But it sounded hollow even to me. The rain eased to a drizzle, streetlights casting halos around us, turning the moment surreal. A couple hurried past under a shared umbrella, laughing about some inside joke, and envy hit me like a sucker punch. Normal. That's all I wanted, normal. Elias tilted his head, studying me like a puzzle he was determined to solve. "You did, and it's eating you alive." He reached out, hesitated, then let his hand drop. The almost touch burned hotter than the downpour. "Let me buy you coffee. Or a drink. Hell, a towel. Anywhere but here." I should have said no. Should have hailed another cab and bolted back to my shoebox apartment in Bushwick, where the walls didn't judge and the takeout menus drowned out the silence. But his gaze, God, that gaze, held secrets of its own. A depth that whispered he understood the shadows I hid in. Against every instinct screaming ethical breach, I nodded. Fine, but just to dry off. The diner was a greasy spoon relic, all checkered floors and vinyl booths that smelled like bacon and regret. We slid into a corner spot, the kind where confessions flowed easier under the hum of fluorescent lights. Elias shrugged off his coat, revealing a crisp white shirt rolled to the elbows, forearms corded with muscle that spoke of weekend hikes upstate, not the sterile confines of his office. I tried not to stare, but failed. He was older, mid-40s maybe, with salt and pepper at his temples that only made him more magnetic, like a storm cloud you couldn't look away from. The waitress, a no-nonsense Latina with tattoos snaking up her arms, plunked down 2 mugs of black coffee without asking. "On the house, Doc. You look like hell." She winked at me. "New patient? He bites." Elias chuckled, low and warm, and something in my chest unclenched. "Old friend, Maria. And no biting tonight." As she sauntered off, he leaned forward, elbows on the scarred Formica table. "Talk to me, Brandon. Off the record. What happened after you stopped coming?" I wrapped my hands around the mug, the heat grounding me. Lies danced on my tongue. Work's been crazy, dating someone new, but his eyes demanded truth. "Jake found out I was seeing you. Went nuclear. Said I was weak for needing a shrink. That real men handle their shit." I swallowed hard, the words tasting like ash. Broke into my place. Trashed everything. I filed a report, but cops in this city? They shrugged it off. Domestic dispute. Like it was mutual. Elias's jaw tightened. A muscle ticking under the stubble. That's not mutual. That's assault. His voice was steel wrapped in silk. The therapist in him warring with the man. You should have called me. And say what? Hey, Doc. Your advice didn't stick. Mind fixing me over beers? I laughed, bitter and sharp. You had your notepad. Your boundaries. I had my pride. He reached across the table then, fingers brushing mine. Just a graze electric as a live wire. Pride's a lousy shield, Brandon. I know. His touch lingered, thumb tracing the back of my hand in a circle that sent heat pooling low in my gut. Unprofessional? Hell yes. But in that moment, with the rain pattering against the window like applause, it felt like salvation. We talked for hours, the coffee going cold as walls crumbled. I spilled it all. The way Jake's love had started sweet, all mixtapes and midnight drives along the Hudson, then soured into control, tracking my phone, mocking my faggy friends, isolating me until I forgot who I was before him. Elias listened, not with the detached nod of Sessions, but with fire in his eyes, leaning in like every word was a lifeline. He shared fragments of his own. A failed marriage to a woman he'd loved as a cover. The quiet coming out in his 30s that cost him family Christmases in Ohio. I get the hiding, he said softly, but it hollows you out. By closing time, the diner's neon sign buzzed outside, casting red glows across his face. He walked me to the subway, our shoulders brushing in the chill. At the platform edge, trains rumbling below like my pulse, he stopped me. This isn't over, Brandon. You need to heal for real this time. I met his gaze inches apart, breath mingling. And you? What do you need, Elias? His answer was a ghost of a smile, hand cupping my jaw, thumb ghosting my lower lip. You, truth and all. Then he kissed me. Slow, devastating, tasting of coffee and unspoken promises. The world narrowed to that point of contact, the platform emptying around us as if New York itself held its breath. I pulled back first, dazed, heart slamming. This is insane. You're he murmured, forehead to mine. Now, we're just two guys in the rain, figuring it out. The train screeched in, doors hissing open like a challenge. I stepped on, his hand slipping from mine, but his eyes promised more. As the doors closed, I realized the lie I told myself wasn't about Jake anymore. It was about wanting Elias' heart not as a savior, but as the man who saw me whole. The weeks that followed blurred into a fever dream of stolen moments and second-guessing every choice that led me here. Elias and I texted like teenagers, late-night confessions about bad takeout and worse exes, memes that made him snort laugh in voice notes that played on loop in my earbuds during soul-crushing shifts at the ad agency. Manhattan's grind felt lighter with him in my pocket. His words a bomb against the fluorescent hell of open-plan offices and deadlines that choked like Jake's hands around my throat. Our first real date was unscripted, born of desperation after a brutal client call left me chain-smoking on a fire escape overlooking the East River. Come over, I texted, fingers fumbling. Bring wine. And that thing you do with your voice when you make everything sound okay. He arrived 20 minutes later, bottle of Cabernet in hand, sleeves rolled up like he was ready for battle. My apartment was a disaster. Pizza boxes stacked like modern art, laundry spilling from the hamper, but he didn't blink, just set the wine down, pulled me into his arms, and murmured against my temple. Rough day, huh? Tell me about the dragon you slayed. We ended up on the fire escape, legs dangling over the void, city lights twinkling like distant stars. The wine loosened tongues and inhibitions. I confessed the panic attacks that still ambushed me in elevators. The way Jake's voice echoed in nightmares, calling me worthless. Elias listened, then shared his own scars. The therapy he'd sought after his divorce. The queer support group in Chelsea where he'd first admitted he craved men like me, raw, unpolished, real. You remind me why I do this, he said, voice husky. Not the job, the living. His hand found mine in the dark, calluses from pen grips and guitar strings. A hobby he'd mentioned once, rough against my palm. We kissed there, wine sweet and urgent, his body solid against mine as the summer humidity wrapped us in a haze. It escalated fast, back inside, clothes shedding like old skin. His mouth mapping every bruise Jake had left, not with pity, but reverence. "Beautiful," he whispered, tracing a faded mark on my ribs. "All of you." Making love with Elias was revelation. No rush, no power plays, just slow exploration, his hands learning me like Braille, drawing out gasps I'd forgotten I could make. He moved with the patience of someone who'd waited lifetimes for this, hips rolling in rhythms that synced with my heartbeat, eyes never leaving mine even as pleasure crested. Afterward, tangled in sheets that smelled of him, cedar and clean soap, I traced the lines of his back, feeling the tension he carried for patients like me. "This okay?" I asked, voice small. "Us." He propped on an elbow, silver strands catching the moonlight. "More than okay. It's necessary." But doubt flickered in his eyes, a shadow I couldn't name. The idol cracked on a sticky August afternoon, 2 months in. I'd surprised him at his brownstone in Cobble Hill, take out from that hole-in-the-wall Thai place he loved, a 6-pack of his microbrew IPA. The door swung open, and there he was, but not alone. A woman, mid-30s, blonde and poised, in a pencil skirt that screamed Park Avenue, stood too close, her hand on his arm, laughter dying as she spotted me. "Brandon," Elias said, surprise sharpening his tone. "Hey, this is Lila," she finished, extending a manicured hand, her smile polite but probing. "Elias's colleague. We were just going over case files." "Colleague, right?" But the way her eyes lingered on him, the casual intimacy of her touch, it reeked of more. Jealousy coiled in my gut, hot and irrational. Jake's old taunts whispering I wasn't enough. I forced a grin, thrusting the bag forward. "Brought dinner." Didn't mean to interrupt the filing. Elias's brow furrowed, sensing the shift. "Join us?" "Lila's heading out anyway." She didn't. We ate in awkward threesome, her questions veering too personal. How we'd met, vague therapy nod. My line of work, ad guy, thrilling. Elias deflected with charm, but tension hummed like a live wire. When she finally left, air kissing his cheeks, he turned to me with apology in his eyes. "She's a psychiatrist. We collaborate on referrals." Nothing more. I nodded, but the seed was planted. That night, tangled again, I couldn't shake it, her perfume clinging to his shirt like accusation. "You sure?" I murmured against his neck, half joking, half pleading. He pulled back, searching my face. "Brandon, trust me. Like I trust you." But trust? I'd lied to him from the start, and as his breathing evened into sleep, I stared at the ceiling, wondering if the real betrayal was mine. Falling too hard, too fast, for a man whose life I could never fully map. The doubts festered, blooming into arguments over nothing. His late nights at the office, my flinch at raised voices. Then came the bombshell. A rainy Tuesday, scrolling X during lunch. Some mindless doom scroll through queer threads and viral thirst traps, when a photo stopped me cold. Elias, arm around Lila at a gala, her head on his shoulder, caption. "Partners in crime and change. Mental health matters, NYC pride." Partners. My phone slipped from numb fingers, clattering to the break room floor. Heart racing, I dialed him, voicemail beeping like a death knell. "Call me back." I growled into the void. "Now." He did, from a cab en route to a conference upstate. "What's wrong?" "You sound." "Partners." The word spat out like venom. "With her? After everything?" Silence. Then a sigh heavy as the Hudson fog. "It's professional, Brandon. The firm's branding. She's my business partner, co-founded the practice. Not romantic. But the photo. The way she looks at you." My voice cracked, raw as the day I'd walked out on Jake. "Am I just convenient? The patient who became the fuck?" "No." Fierce. Immediate. "You're the man I'm falling for. The one who makes me question every boundary I set." A pause, traffic horns blaring in the background. "Come up this weekend." The cabin in the Catskills. Just us. No files, no exes, no doubts. I wanted to believe him. God, I did. But as I hung up, staring at my reflection in the office window, hollow-eyed, frayed, the lie I'd told in therapy echoed back. "I'm fine. I can handle this." Except I couldn't. Not when love felt like another pretty trap, waiting to snap shut. The drive to the Catskills was a gauntlet of autumn leaves turning blood red, mirroring the turmoil churning in my veins. Elias had left the keys under the mat, a note taped to the cabin door. Make yourself at home. Beers in the fridge. I'll be there by dusk. Simple, steadying. I unpacked in the rustic space. Pine beams, stone fireplace. A king bed piled with quilts that smelled of lavender and him. It was his escape, he'd said once. A place to unplug from the city's pulse and remember who he was before the white coat. I paced the creaky floors, phone buzzing with unread texts from friends checking in. You good, man? Haven't heard from you. No, I wasn't. Lila's face haunted me, her smile a specter. To drown it, I cracked a beer, then another, the IPA bitter on my tongue as I scrolled old session notes I'd stupidly saved. Patient exhibits avoidance patterns. Recommend radical honesty. Hypocrite. Much. Sunset painted the lake gold when his truck rumbled up the gravel drive. Elias emerged, duffel slung over his shoulder. Flannel shirt unbuttoned just enough to tease the dark hair on his chest. He took one look at me. Sprawled on the porch swing, third beer sweating in my grip, and his face fell. Hey, stranger. He dropped the bag, crouching to my level, hand on my knee. Talk to me. I thrust the phone at him, the gala photo glaring. This. Explain. He glanced, then met my eyes, unflinching. I did. But you need more? Fine. Lila and I dated years ago. College sweethearts experimenting with straight passing in a world that demanded it. It ended amicable friends, then partners in the practice. She's straight now, married to a tech bro in Silicon Valley. The photo? PR bullshit for donors. His thumb stroked my thigh, grounding. You're it for me, Brandon. The only one. Relief ward with shame, hot tears pricking. I lied to you, I blurted, the dam cracking. In sessions. About Jake. It wasn't rough patches, he beat me, controlled me. I told myself it was love because I was scared to be alone. Elias's breath hitched, pain etching his features. He pulled me into his lap, strong arms enveloping as I shattered. I knew, he whispered, rocking us gently. Not the details, but the shape of it. That's why I pushed. And why I can't lose you now. We made fire that night, literal and figurative. Logs crackling in the hearth. His body over mine on the rug, slow and sacred. He kissed every scar, whispered affirmations that sank into my bones. Strong. Deserving. Mine. Dawn found us wrapped in quilts by the window, lake mist rising like ghosts banished. But peace is fleeting in stories like ours. On the drive back Sunday, my phone lit up. A blocked number, Jake's voice slurring through the line I'd changed, but apparently not well enough. Heard you're shacking up with some shrink. Pathetic. Come back, baby. I forgive you. I froze, Elias glancing over from the wheel. Worse. I hung up, hands shaking. He knows. Elias's grip tightened on the gearshift. Then we face it. Together. But together meant exposure, Elias's career on the line, my fragile recovery teetering. As the city skyline loomed, doubt crept back. Love was a risk, and I was already bleeding from the last one. Fall deepened into a crisp bite, New York shedding leaves like inhibitions, but our rhythm held. Dinners at hidden gems in the village, lazy Sundays binging indie films on his couch. His head in my lap as I carted fingers through his hair. Elias became my anchor, the man who coaxed truths from me over morning coffee, who held me through nights when Jake's ghost clawed at sleep. You're safe, he'd murmur, lips to my forehead. I've got you. Yet cracks spiderwebbed beneath the surface. His practice thrived, articles in psych journals praising his innovative trauma work. But I caught him staring at his laptop late, brow furrowed over emails from Lila. Just admin, he'd say. But the distance grew, subtle as fog off the river. And Jake? Silent since that call. A sword of Damocles I pretended wasn't there. The high tide turned on a blustery November eve. Wind whipping through Washington Square Park as we strolled hand in hand. Scarves tangled like our lives. Street musicians strummed folk tunes. The arch looming like a portal to better tomorrows. Marathon next weekend? Elias teased, bumping my shoulder. You versus me. Loser cooks Thanksgiving. Deal. But you'll owe me turducken. I grinned, stealing a kiss under the arch. his beard tickling as laughter bubbled between us. Then my phone vibrated. Unknown number. A photo attachment. Heart plummeting. I opened it. Me and Elias, mid-kiss, timestamped 5 minutes ago. Followed by text. Cute. But he knows better. Tell your doc boyfriend ethics board's love scandals. Or I will. J. Nausea roiled. Jake. Stalking? How? I showed Elias, his face draining of color. Block him. We'll get a restraining order. It's not that simple. Panic clawed up my throat. Your job, he could ruin you. One call to the board. And he cupped my face, thumbs wiping rain or tears from my cheeks. My job's replaceable. You aren't. But his eyes betrayed the lie. This was his life's work, built from his own wreckage. We retreated to his place, barricading against the storm outside and in. Over whiskey by the fire, plans formed. Lawyer consult Monday, security cam for my door, maybe a PI to track Jake's ass to whatever hole he'd crawled into. Elias paced, phone glued to his ear, calling in favors from old med school buds. I watched, admiration twisting with guilt. This man, who'd patched so many souls, now mending mine at cost to his own. Midnight found us in bed, bodies seeking solace. He entered me slow, eyes locked, each thrust a vow. I'm here. We're enough. But as he shuddered release, whispering my name like prayer, my mind raced ahead. To board hearings, tabloid whispers in queer circles, the betrayal of a love born in lies. Morning brought clarity, or so I thought. Elias kissed me awake, coffee brewing, but his phone chimed incessantly. Lila, he explained, stepping into the kitchen. I eavesdropped despite myself, muffled urgency. Doc can't ignore it, if it leaks. Her voice, tinny through the speaker. Elias, think. The practice, our reputations. Step back now before it blows. Step back. The words gutted me. I slipped from sheets, dressing silently, fleeing before he returned. Texts pinged as I subwayed home. Where are you? Talk to me. No reply. Pride, that old bastard, held my tongue. The blow landed that afternoon. A knock at my door, delivery, the guy said, thrusting a manila envelope. Inside, printouts of our texts, blurry pics from the cabin window, a note in Jake's scrawl. Told you. He's using you, like I did. Come home or everyone knows. Rage blurred vision. I drove to Elias's office. Unannounced, desperate, barging past the receptionist into his sanctum. He rose, alarm flashing. Brandon, what's this? I flung the envelope. Papers scattered like confetti from hell. He scanned, paling. Jake. He broke in. Worse. He's everywhere. Hysteria edged my voice. And Lila. Last night, she told you to bail, didn't she? Elias sank into his chair, rubbing temples. She advised caution. For the practice. Not for us. But it is us. I shouted, fists balled. Your career's on the line because of me. The patient you fucked. He stood, bridging the desk, hands on my shoulders. Don't. This isn't a mistake. The word hung, venomous. I lied to you, Elias. From day one. Maybe you deserve better than my mess. His grip tightened, eyes blazing. I deserve you, mess and all. He kissed me then, fierce, claiming. Right there amid Freudian tomes and Kleenex boxes, the receptionist cleared her throat from the door, but we didn't stop until breath demanded it. We fight, he said, forehead to mine. Together. But fighting meant war. We met the lawyer, a sharp-dressed dyke named Riley who'd handled queer asylum cases, and filed the order. Jake's response? Radio silence, then a flood. Voicemails slurring apologies laced with threats, emails to Elias's work address outing our affair. The board caught wind, a discreet inquiry landing in his inbox. Clarify relationship with former client BM, potential ethical violation. Elias downplayed it in our emergency powwow at a dim Soho bar, nursing scotch while I nursed panic. It's routine. I'll disclose, recuse from similar cases. No big deal. Liar? I whispered, echoing my old sins. It's everything. He took my hand under the table, thumb circling my knuckles. You're everything. This paperwork. But the high tide receded into undertow. Lila called a summit. Her, Elias, me, in a sterile conference room overlooking the Flatiron. She was all business, clipboard in hand, but her eyes on him screamed possession. Elias, the board sniffing. One whiff of coercion, former patient vulnerability, and you're done. Coercion, I snapped. He didn't. Perception, Brandon. She cut in, cool as ice. In our world, it's king. To Elias, suspend sessions, date quietly, or risk it all. He glanced at me, resolve cracking. I can't suspend us. You have to, she pressed. For him. For the greater good. The room spun. Greater good code for sacrifice me on the altar of his success. I bolted, chair scraping like a scream, out into the chill where taxis honked judgment. Elias chased, catching me blocks away, spinning me against a lamppost. Don't let her divide us. She's right, I choked. I'm the liability, the lie that keeps on giving. No, his voice broke, hands framing my face. You're the truth I never knew I needed. We clung there, passers-by blurring, as sirens wailed like omens. But betrayal brewed, not from Lila, but deeper. That night, alone in my apartment, I dug through Jake's envelope again. Tucked in the fold, a screenshot of Elias's browser history, dated months back. Searches. Brandon last name ex-boyfriend abuse records. Ethical dating former patients. Queer therapist boundaries. He'd researched me. Before the rain-soaked reunion. Knew more than he let on. The realization hit like Jake's fist. I wasn't a chance encounter. I was a case study extended. Tears burned as I texted. Knew all along? Was I just therapy with benefits? His reply instant. No. Research to help. Because I cared. Still do. Too late. The lie, his this time, shattered the fragile trust. I blocked him, curled on the floor, sobbing as the city slept. Love, it seemed, was just another session ending in termination. Winter clamped down hard, blanketing Brooklyn in gray slush that matched the fog in my soul. Days bled into weeks of radio silence from Elias, a void filled with overtime at the agency. Pitching campaigns for cologne that promised seduction I no longer craved, and nights drowned in dive bars, flirting with strangers whose touches echoed hollow. Friends staged interventions over beers at McSorley's. Dude, ghosting your shrink bay? Classic self-sabotage. But they didn't get it. The betrayal sting, sharper than Jake's slaps, because Elias had promised safety. Jake meanwhile escalated. Flowers arrived at work. Roses laced with baby's breath, mocking innocence. With cards cooing miss you, B. Let's talk. Then calls to my mom in Ohio, spinning tales of my descent into drugs and dangerous men. She rang me frantic. Brandon, honey, is this true? That therapist, Elias? He's got you mixed up in something bad. I hung up, gutted, blocking her too. Isolation was Jake's old game, but this time I played myself. The breaking point crashed in mid-December, holiday lights twinkling like cruel jokes as I trudged home from an office party. Eggnog buzz souring into nausea. Footsteps echoed behind, too deliberate. I spun, and there he was. Jake, bundled in a peacoat that hid the paunch from his barfly days, eyes wild with that manic gleam I'd once mistaken for passion. Missed you, baby. He stepped close, breath reeking of bourbon. Saw your little doctor friend at that gala. Bet he can't fuck you like I did. Rage ignited, shoving him back. Stay away, you psycho. Orders say jail if you come near. He laughed, low and ugly. Papers? I burned them. And your secrets? Already emailed the board. Your man's toast. Panic surged, Elias. I fumbled for my phone, dialing 911 as Jake lunged, pinning me against the hydrant. His fist connected, once, twice, stars exploding behind my eyes. Mine, he snarled, knee grinding into my thigh. Then a roar, Elias? No, a blur of motion. A neighbor, burly guy from 4B, tackling Jake like a linebacker. Sirens wailed distant, closing in. I slumped, blood warm on my lip, as cops swarmed, cuffing Jake's thrashing form. You good, man? The neighbor asked, helping me up. No, but alive. And as paramedics patched me in the ambulance, My phone lit. Elias. Saw the police scanner alert. Park Slope assault. Please be okay. I'm coming. He did, bursting into the ER like a force of nature. Coat dusted with snow, eyes scanning until they locked on me. Brandon. The word a prayer. He crossed the sterile space in 3 strides, enveloping me despite the nurse's TSK. God, what happened? Jake. Simple, shattered. He knew things about us. Elias's face crumpled, pulling a chair close, hand engulfing mine. I got the board's letter this morning. Full investigation. Lila's furious. Wants me out. A bitter laugh. Turns out, she was right. Don't. I squeezed his fingers, for tugging. You came. Always. His free hand brushed hair from my brow, gentle as absolution. I should have told you about the searches. After you stopped sessions, I couldn't let go. Dug to understand, to help if you needed. It blurred lines I swore I'd keep. The ultimate ethical breach. I tried for humor, but it fell flat. Worth it. I's fierce. For you. The room hushed as a detective entered. Stocky, no nonsense, badge glinting. Mr. Matthews? Jake Harlan spilling. Admits the stalking, the break-in. Says he got your info from an insider. He glanced at Elias, eyebrow arched. Someone close to your doctor here. Elias stiffened. What? Anonymous tip. Detailed. Texts, photos, even session notes. The cop flipped his pad. Harlan claims it came from a woman. Blonde. Psychiatrist. Lila. The pieces slammed together, her advice. The summit. The way she'd eyed my envelope that day. Jealousy, not ethics. Protecting her stake, not just the practice. Elias's jaw clenched, color draining. I'll handle it. As the cop left, promising charges, silence stretched taut. She betrayed us. I whispered. For what? To keep you leashed. He nodded, slow. We built that practice from nothing. But her? Is control. Like Jake. A beat. I resign tomorrow. Start fresh. Somewhere that doesn't demand I choose between heart and Hippocrates. My breath caught. And us. He leaned in, lips to my knuckles. If you'll have me, no more lies. Just this. Tears blurred him. Beautiful, broken, brave. Yes. Recovery was a grind. Stitches out by Christmas, bruises fading like bad memories. But the real healing? That unfolded slow, in quiet Brooklyn mornings. Elias moved in, his brownstone sold, proceeds seeding a solo practice upstate, focused on queer trauma without the corporate chains. Lila? Sued for breach, her empire teetering as truth surfaced. Not just sabotage, but pilfered client files sold for research grants. Justice, American-style, messy, but merciless. We rebuilt on honesty. Couples therapy, ironic, with a new doc who chuckled at our meet-cute. Weekend hikes where he'd play guitar by campfires, voice rough singing Springsteen as I leaned into his shoulder. Jake got 5 years, violation of order plus assault. His last words in court, he'll leave you too. But Elias didn't. He stayed, through my relapses. Nights I'd wake screaming, his arms the only tether. Spring bloomed, cherry blossoms dusting Prospect Park like confetti for our recommitment picnic. BLTs on a blanket, cheap champagne fizzing. To truths, he toasted, clinking plastic flutes. And the gazes that reveal them. I pulled him down, kissing under petals falling soft as forgiveness. Love, it turned out, wasn't a session or a scandal. It was this. 2 men, scarred and stubborn, choosing each other daily in a city that chewed up dreams but spat out miracles. Human, messy, profoundly real. And in Elias's eyes, I saw not just my secrets laid bare, but the man who'd guard them with his life. No grand gestures, no fairy tale bows. Just us, hand in hand, walking into whatever storm next, because together, we were unbreakable.